Success transcends cities. As one of the world's most respected business leaders, I know what it takes. Join me now as I sit down with fellow leaders and we share our insights into how you can be successful. My name is Jeffrey Hayzlett, and this is All Business. Well, listen, longtime listeners know I love people who think big, and today's guest is no exception. Jeff Rosenthal turned his wild idea of a ski trip for young entrepreneurs and eventually turning it into the Summit, a series of invitation-only events with some of the top thought leaders and entrepreneurs in the world. He also co-owns one of the world's largest ski resorts in North America. Jeff and his business partners recently co-authored a new book called Make No Small Plans, Lessons on Thinking Big, Chasing Dreams, and Building Community. Jeff, welcome to All Business with Jeffrey Hayzlett.
Thanks for having me, Jeffrey. Appreciate it.
It's good. You guys have done well. You start with the book on a story on how you called, at that time, the Summit series and how it got started. Can you give the listeners a look at the chaotic beginnings?
Yeah, absolutely. We started the Summit in 2008. We were young entrepreneurs. We were in our early 20s, 23, 24 years old. And when you're that age and you're running a business or you're starting something new, you typically are learning by screwing stuff up and then hopefully not repeating those mistakes or finding like a morsel of wisdom from some mentor you found out in the world. And the idea was very simple. It was like, man, how cool would it be if we could throw an event and gather other young founders who are going through the same stuff that we were going through. So we cold called, we Facebook messaged, we got 19 people to say yes out of probably the 100 that we hit up to come on a free ski trip with us in Park City, Utah in 2008. And that event was poorly planned and there wasn't much going on and there wasn't much thought into it. We didn't have a big track record in hosting entrepreneurs or putting on conferences. However, the spirit of it, where there was no cherished outcome, we weren't looking to extract value or make money off of this. We simply thought, it would be amazing to make some friends and then, perhaps learn from one another. And that absolutely was true. And that was really the spark of Summit.
How did you connect with your business partners?
One of my co-founders, Brett, and I threw parties together in college. So I went to American University. He went to George Washington. After school, we both started small businesses and stayed in touch. And he had met Elliot, our other co-founder, through the real estate community in Washington, D.C. Brett was sort of like the original glue. He also went to high school with Jeremy, our fourth co-founder. So, Elliot on his own put together the very first trip in 2008. He had a business called Biz on Business, put it on his own credit card. And then by the second event, also in 2008, the team was starting to form. But DC, man, that was the origination.
Well, a lot of good businesses came out of that area in the tech world over the years, and of course, all over the country. But that was one of the highlights. As I said in the intro, I like people who think big. It's even the title of one of my books. In the book, you say no idea should go unspoken. What's the craziest idea that had become reality for you guys?
I think the craziest idea was like buying a ski resort and building a mountain town at 27 years old, 26 years old, when the idea started to germinate and we started to, go for it. The theme of no idea should go unspoken is that brainstorming is typically done in a box. Like when people think about, okay, what's a creative idea that I could have that would be amazing for my business or personally. And the world's kind of set up to shoot down really big, bold ideas. Your friends or your coworkers, they'll tell you like, that is crazy. That's what they're supposed to say. For us, when we would play storm, to use a term from my friend Daniel Latner, we would just say the craziest thing that could come to mind, almost free association. And then it's fun. And then you're just like, bantering with your buddies. To a degree. And then of course you end up arriving at a crazy idea that's actually executable. Man, we should really charter an ocean liner and build a temporary autonomous zone for a conference. And then you say 2 or 3 other crazy things. And then somebody else in the room is like, wait a minute, why can't you do that? Can't we just call a cruise company and charter a boat? And so then, that's the birth of Summit at Sea in 2011 for us as one of our event models. With no idea should go unspoken. It's just that if you're having fun and you're being an expansive thinker, It's a way more enjoyable creative process, and it actually allows you to arrive at something that will excite everybody else.
How soon did you abandon your other businesses, or did you, as this started to take off?
Almost immediately. The curve for Summit, first event 2008, 19 people, second event 6 months later, it's 60 people, and our third event within 270 days of starting Summit was at the White House. So we had an unbelievably exponential growth curve, and we started getting just amazing wisdom from the community that we were servicing, because we were the youngest and least experienced people in the room, immediately. So the personal growth and the professional growth that came from Summit was 1,000x from the other things that we were doing and working on. So some people, walked away from, like, I had startups that I stopped pursuing. Jeremy had a rock band, was on the Warped Tour, and he left music. Elliot left his business that he co-founded, BizNow. And Brett had built an energy consultancy in Washington, D.C. that he almost immediately stopped working on. So I think that we really were happy to burn the boats, as you will, and step off into the new land. We couldn't go back.
I'm a 4-time best-selling author myself. I know what that's like, selling books and getting that out. But I just read a great book last night, and I'm just excited about people who are still doing books, because sometimes it's a lost art, but the good ones are the really good ones. Let me ask you about community, because I always talk about content, community, and commerce, and those three go together. How important is building community to your business?
It's everything. It's the foundation of what we do. We're a generalist organization. We host a conference and build events for people of different disciplines, different backgrounds, different nationalities. And the more diverse the inputs, the more complex and impactful the outputs. To do that, to have that breadth and depth to where you can program on behalf of a wide community, you're in their hands, in a sense. Like, the way that we curate is we curate the curated. We ask the experts that we're lucky enough to service and say, hey, what would you want to do? So from building the community and meeting new community members, to building the product and knowing the speakers and having the awareness of what great art or music or impact work is coming down the pike, it's 100% on the people that are around us. And we, as community builders, we just truly get more serotonin and dopamine from doing for our friends and seeing them succeed than from our own wins. And I think that that's an orientation that's really helpful if community is going to be your business.
But a lot of people don't know this, but the more that you help other people win, the more you win in the end.
Well, that we call it the triangulation of goodwill. Like, if you're playing a game of trades, or you're looking for a reciprocity loop, it's extractive from the beginning. Your first step was really not in the spirit of generosity. And I think that if you give without the expectation of return, or if you just say, hey, I'm going to win the giving competition, I'm not going to worry about like who's the better friend here. That's the way where you get to a place of abundance. And then you feel bright, whether or not it comes back to you karmically, you've built a favor economy surplus. So people want to help you. And you feel comfortable. Like, why wouldn't you ask somebody else to just help you? Because you live in a cycle of doing it for other people. So I think that, if you're, man, people won't help me, or that nobody wants to help, then you're going to be in a framework where you're not going to go and ask. I think that, if you just go ask and you're not living a life of generosity, it's also a one-way street.
Yeah, because we all run into those takers. I mean, I got people who like that all the time. They're just asking me rather than giving. The more you give, the more you get. That's the rule I've always lived by. Now, your summit described as the Davos of Generation Z. How important was it for the summit to set itself apart from the other events, which I think you guys did a really great job of, by the way?
Thank you, man. I think that's it's off by one generation. We're really the Davos of Gen Y.
Okay.
The millennial generation. Gen Z is a whole other Web3, interconnected, species with a totally different set of philosophies. So actually, I think every organization has to fight for relevance. And one of the things that we think about a lot is how to bring in those 25-year-old entrepreneurs and social entrepreneurs that we're just learning about. In terms of differentiation, it, I don't know that it was intentional. The product that we're interested in is not symposium stage. It's not, speakers lecturing to us for 10 hours straight in one room. Some of us want to go to talks. Some of us want to participate in dialogue. Some of us want to go to the yoga class. Maybe you just want to cook food with the chef. Maybe you want to go on a hike, so we're all about curating fun, dynamic, shared experiences. And those could be intellectual, those could be social, those could be adventure. But that's what typically leads to sticky relationships. And that's our KPI. The most important thing to us is like, what lifelong relationship or what amazingly impactful relationship did you participate in one of our platforms and then come away with? Because that's priceless. That has forever value. And then all of the assets, whether it's like, something spectacular, like building a 1,000-person campsite on top of a mountain for 3.5 days, or chartering an ocean liner, or building a mountain town. It's really like being in service of this community of interdisciplinary, intergenerational people, and doing things that's inspiring enough to where you're relevant for them. Because if you're doing also ran shit, or if you're kind of boring, then nobody's going to pay attention. And so I think the elements are all indicative of those principles.
What were besides money, what were some of the earliest obstacles in the early days of the summit?
Your own naivete and experience. It's the gift is that you're naive and inexperienced, and so you'll run at something crazy. But we got our teeth knocked out on every complexity up the ring that we had to face. We didn't go to Harvard Business School. We're not we're non-target, you could say. We have 2 college degrees between the 4 co-founders. And, the team of people that jumped on our pirate ship, went from 4 to 10 to 20 people that we would move around the world, renting houses as like our office and home, and hosting in it. And like, we had this whole kind of Blues Brothers gonzo entrepreneurial journey.
Road trip, almost like road trip. Right?
And so it's hilarious and it's fun. And it's like, really, it's a great story, but that you can't, you don't really have wisdom in your 20s, you have hustle. And you can't, once you operate from wisdom, you can sit back and think about your strategy and then execute against the plan. When you're a kid and you don't, you're not that killer, like this is how it works. So, I mean, man, buying a mountain and figuring out everything that had to do with actually closing on that transaction and raising that amount of money, and, municipal bonds and EB-5 loans, and, operating a 40-year-old asset that has a huge community fan base that believes that it's like their mountain, so pretty much, and every time that we so that just comes with the territory, man. If you're expecting to like, not get your teeth knocked out while playing professional hockey, it's just you're misinformed.
What'd you miss out in the summit? What did you say? Hey, look, I should have done that one thing in the summit that you wish you would have done.
I don't have any really regrets about it. The only thing I would say is I wish I invested in my friends more. When I look at the last 12 years, the people that I resonated with the most, who I like really loved or spent time, I mean, man, they all crushed it. They all did incredible. And there's probably a reason why, you're inspired by those people and you want to spend more time around them, and you learn from them. And that's because they're probably amazing. So
are you talking about the learning, or you're talking about because you would have made a lot more money?
I'm saying I would have invested in them from a financial perspective, because that wasn't our priority. Like this is a return on community before return on investment, entrepreneurial endeavor. And I don't think we missed out on anything. I think that we're like unbelievably lucky. Like we got to run around the world and meet amazing people and learn from folks and focus our, lives on experiences. And I can't imagine a more fun way to spend our time. And then, 2 of us came out of it meeting amazing women that are now our wives, and the mothers of our children. Like we punched way above our weight because of the platform that we, were lucky enough to start. So yeah, I can't share with you any regrets, man. Sorry.